Welcome to the show, Comedy in a Nutshell, where laughter's craft and meaning will unseal. What does it mean to joke, to craft a smile? For comics, it's a journey, not a trial. We'll ask the questions, share the highs and lows, and seek the truths that only laughter knows. So tune in now as we explore the way comedy ignites and brightens each new day. I'm the comedy nerd who's seen more than 1,800 different comedians perform live comedy, and you can find out more about my journey in comedy fandom on my website, thecomedynerd.com. Please also take a moment to like, subscribe, rate, review and share the podcast. Thank you. My guest this episode is a stand-up comedian who made his Edinburgh Fringe debut in 2023 with a show called Inconceivable, currently available on YouTube, a show that received a nomination at the subsequent Leicester Comedy Festival for Best Show. It's comedian Darran Griffiths. When you think back all the way back to the beginning, do you feel like comedy had a big influence on you, like when you were growing up, from family or television?
Do you know what is comedy's one of these weird art forms that I hate calling it that, but that's something that I didn't think could be done in a strange way. That I'd see elements of stand up and see people funny, but I thought, you know, they were either like TV presenters or they were actors in interviews or musicians in interviews. I thought they were being funny, but it's only until I got to maybe like secondary school that I saw actual stand-up comedians doing things. But even then, it still didn't cross my mind that stand-up is something you could do. Even then, it's always people are actors, and a lot of people who I thought were funny in interviews would probably start to stand up. So people like Martin Lawrence. Right. You know, I'd see him in interviews and stuff and think, oh, he's hilarious. Kevin Hart, and think, oh, he's a hilarious guy. I've seen him in films, but not realising, oh, actually, they're stand-up comedians who transitioned into acting. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it had, had very funny family members. I'm not one of those people who, like, from a young age wanted to be a stand-up comedian. I just didn't know it was a thing.
So when was comedy sort of on the radar then for you as a possible career path?
Well, it's even when I had like so I did a sixth form when I was 18. I hosted a charity event at sixth form. I was hosting, I was presenting that, and I was funny while presenting it. And my sixth form teacher said, "Oh, you know, you're really good at this. Like, you should. I know you're going to uni, but make sure you pursue something like this." And even having someone say something like that directly to me, stand up still wasn't on my mind. I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll be a presenter. Maybe I have to like host a radio show, and then I can host TV." So, and even at uni, I used to watch the Chappelle show. My friend had like DVD, the sketch show. Yeah. But for stand up for me, it really it happened very quickly, in very short period. And I was doing a personal development course, and the whole course was just about self-actualization, maximizing your potential, and all that stuff. All kind of things that I, even now, I've been through the course, would cynically roll my eyes out, and go, sounds so like America, but yeah, it's too positive. And I remember being on the course, and even though I did have this kind of negative attitude towards the course, I did also say to myself, it was recommended to me. I'll go, if I'm going to do it, and I'm going to almost disprove or prove how rubbish it is, or disprove its value, I need to do it properly. I can't not do throw myself in. And one of the things they do is like people walk to the front and talking, and they ask the point they're making is you need to be unreasonable to get what you want in life. Because if you're reasonable, you'll rationalize why you can't do something. If someone said, climb the tallest mountain in the world, you go, well, I can't do that. It's too cold. I've climate experience, blah, blah, blah. But yet people do scale Everest and get to the summit. So you have to be unreasonable. You have to say something odd. So that was the whole kind of like lesson. And they asked people in the crowd, like, who considers themselves as reasonable? I put my hands up. And then, why do you think you're reasonable? And I said, that was my nickname at uni, the voice of reason. And They go, what job do you do? And I'd laugh. I was like, I'm an accountant. And that just made the whole room laugh. It's like, this is the most reasonable person. So they say, come to the front. And then, we had this whole kind of exploration of my past, and what has reasonable got me. And I said, stable income and but is that what you want? And I was like, no, not really. And I said, okay, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And I paused and I thought, and they go, no, don't pause and think. You're trying to be reasonable. You're trying to think of an answer that's socially acceptable, but is a bit out there.
Yeah.
He's like, no, gut feeling, what is it? And I said, comedy. And they go, right, why aren't you doing it? I was like, I don't know. And then they go, well, in your break, 15 minutes, they're all that action. You've got to make an action towards the comedy. So in the 15 minutes, I just Googled comedy course. I found a comedy course that was like 12 weeks long. And I was like, I don't need 12 weeks. That's too long. I don't have time to commit 12 weeks. And so I ended up finding a two-day course over a weekend down in Paddington. It was Laughing Horse.
Yep.
And I signed up for that, paid about 99 quid. So then when I came back from the break, he said, what have you done? And I said, I've signed up for a comedy course. I did the course for 2 days. They had a showcase at the end.
Yeah.
And then, did the showcase. And then, they had like a little bit after to say, here's how you get gigs and stuff. And one of the things that I left to was Jay Sodiger, who did my course. And he said something that was really in line with the personal development course I did, which was, someone asks you, what you do, don't say you're trying to be a comedian, say you are a comedian.
Yeah.
If you say you're trying to be a comedian, people, interact with you differently. So say you are a comedian, so that's fine. So the next time I was out in the world, I went to barbers. First time going to the barbers. Oh, what do you do? And I was ready to say I'm an accountant. And I went, no, I'm a comedian. And like, oh, cool. Where have you gigged? Like, where can we see you? And I was like, no, I'm new. And then, but they said, oh, well, best of luck and stuff. And, I finished in the chair. The next guy came to the chair and said, oh, did I hear you say you're a comedian? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, you should message my friends. I said, oh, who's your friends? And he couldn't think of his name because he's like, oh, he goes by a different name on stage. I can't think of what his name is. He goes, I just know him as this. And then he's describing him. And in my head, I was like, no way is he talking about what I think he's talking about. And I said, are you talking about Kane Brown? And he went, yeah, that's it, Kane. Just message him. And I was like, I'm not sure about that. And he goes, yeah, just message him, because my perception of Kane, I've obviously never met him, but I've seen him perform, he's a big, confident guy and that he had that viral clip go around where he's absolutely like eviscerated this woman in the front row. We're talking, so I was like, I want to message this guy. Like he's going to just rip me to pieces. But I still in like the mindset of that course where it's like, well, what's the worst that can happen? He's going to say, he's going to ignore the message. He might say no. Just message him. And I messaged him and said, oh, this guy said for me to message you. He goes, yeah, sure, man. He goes, when we get 5 minutes, come down to Comedy Club and we'll put you on. And I said, I've got 5 minutes. I didn't have 5 minutes. But I had the 5 minutes I did in my showcase that I realised that one of the jokes was actually a Frankie Boyle joke. So I was like, all right, I don't have 5 minutes. And at that time as well, I thought you had to write a new 5 minutes for every time you performed.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to write a new 5 minutes. And I said, yeah, I've got 5 minutes. And he goes, fine, come down. It was Hideaway Club down in Streatham.
Right.
Bank holiday weekend. And the lineup was, so Miss Moreal opened. Then it was Travis J, who closed the first half. Then then Willie Robbo, then me, and then Kojo headlining, and K Brown was the MC. I remember just sat there with my then girlfriends, my cousin, I think one of my ex-girlfriend's friends was there as well, and I was just like, oh my God, I made a mistake inviting people to this. They were just all just monsters, and I got on, and it went all right. Like it wasn't like it wasn't like I destroyed the place. There was, oh my God, where's this guy been? It's the prodigal son. He's here. He just went. I didn't die though either. He just went okay.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, yeah, keep working at it. But yeah, just keep working at it. Just keep gigging. You'll get better in time. That's like fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from then, I think the next time I spoke, I was at a cousin barbecue, and he said, he just introduced me. He goes, this is my cousin Darran. He goes, he's a comedian. And there's someone else who's, oh, you know, Matt's a comedian, and it was Matt Harrison. So he was friends with my cousin at the time, and
Right.
he's one that introduced me to like all the Facebook forums and all the groups and stuff.
Yeah.
And then his advice was just book a few gigs in a row.
Yeah.
Don't just book your next gig. And I go, why? He goes, because you might die
Yeah.
in your gig.
Yeah.
And you'll feel like you never want a gig again.
Yeah.
So if you have something in the diary, you're just like, you have to just do that. I was like, oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
And so I always had that advice for any new comic. I was like, if you're starting, book 3 or 4 gigs in a row.
Yeah.
So you don't quit after you die. Yeah. And that was back in 2016. And I went from, this saying I want to do comedy in a course.
Yeah.
And within 2 months, just booking around, just open mic. And it just became a part of my life. It's something I was just doing.
Yeah.
And now it's, I can't imagine not doing it now.
Yeah.
So that's a very long answer to your question.
It's interesting because sometimes I ask people, was there a point where you kind of realized or decided that now I'm a comedian? And some people say, oh, it was years after I started doing comedy. That's when I decided I was a comedian.
Right. So
it was just kind of something you were doing as well. But it's interesting that the advice you got was say you're a comedian like now, minute one.
Off the offset.
And be that, you know.
And to be fair, probably what those guys were talking about before, I'm not sure, putting words in their mouth, but when I felt like a comedian, because I was saying it, I was like, I'm saying it because that's what I've been told to say. But when I felt like a comedian, as do what I think it's when, strangely, it's not even so much the outside perception of people in like comedy clubs stuff. It's the people who know you, the ones who knew you from your previous life. Who now just accept you do comedy, and probably like maybe like my mum, just being like, okay, you do comedy now. And I remember speaking to her on the way to a gig, and she said, "Oh, sorry, have I caught you on your way to work?" And I was like, "Oh, right, you've never really called it that before. You just done that comedy thing. You're doing a gig. You're doing." And it was not meant to be dismissive, but it always felt a bit dismissive. Whereas this time, it's like, oh, you're going to work. Or people from her job had said, I saw a video of Darran online. I saw him do this. And she was like, oh, okay. And it's like, he's really funny. And she's like, oh. Whereas I think that changed her perception. I mean, from then, I was like, okay, I am a comedian now. It's there.
What about your perception of your role as a comedian? Was it everything you kind of had in your mind from what you'd seen on television or experienced before? Was it a surprise?
Yeah. I mean, I set out like a really audacious goal that I still haven't met. I was 10 years in. I jokingly said, like, I've been 18 months, I'll be at the O2. I won't be headlining, but I'll be on stage. I'll be at the O2. And I've been at the Indigo. I've been at the Indigo O2, but not at the O2. But I still feel like I'm learning. I am still learning. I think because I'm paralleling comedy with a real life. You know what I mean? I've still got a day job. Married, with kids. Comedy is this kind of like beautiful escapism for me. It's something that I don't need to do, but it's something I really like doing and I want to do. So it's I think it allows me to always keep a perspective of this is fun. Yeah, this is a privilege to do, to actually go on stage and talk to strangers and they hold their attention for 20, 30, 40, an hour. Yeah, and be funny and hold court, and they have to listen to me. You mean like the average person doesn't actually get to express themselves in such a free way where they just go, right, you guys have to just sit here and it's socially acceptable for me to just talk and no one interrupt me for an hour. Yes, I've always kept that perspective. And I think Seinfeld said that how long you've been doing comedy is your age in comedy.
Mm.
And so I started 2016, so it's 2025. So it's come up in May. I'll be 9 years old.
Yeah.
And they said if you actually look at a 9-year-old in life, that's what you are in comedy and stuff. And I thought, man, it's like, yeah, I'm not an adult. I'm not even at secondary school yet. I'm at primary school. I'm in the junior. I'm a year 4. I'm just having fun. I don't even think I've got any exams. I don't think I've got SATs or anything. I'm just having fun. And yeah, so there's no real pressure on myself. I guess maybe when I'm 18 years in, I'm an adult in comedy.
Yeah.
Then maybe my perspective I may be a more jaded person. Who knows? But right now, I'm still enjoying my childhood in comedy.
Well, what about you as a person then on stage? Are we seeing a character that you're playing that is of you, or are you being, as everyone always claims, completely honest? How much of you is on the stage?
If anything, it's probably too much me on the stage. I've probably got it around the wrong way. I'm more filtered off stage. I'm more of a subdued person off stage. Something might annoy me in the day, and then I get on stage and I just go, yeah, just let it out on stages. And I think because I can always hide behind the fact that people go, oh, I'm not sure if what he said is actually real, or whether he means that or not. So yeah, I'd say, I mean, there's things I'll say on stage that are way more tongue in cheek, and I know is not appropriate to say. So that is why I've said it, rather than that's what I really think about it. But I've always found that the jokes that end up staying are the ones that do have an element of truth to it, do have an element of my true feelings in it, because I don't know, I guess I deliver it more authenticity.
Right.
And stuff. So rather than just saying something that is provocative, I was like, well, do I actually believe that? No. What do I believe? Let's find a belief that I actually hold that is kind of provocative.
Yeah.
Let's try and build a joke around that, rather than I know this is provocative so I'm just going to say that. But so yes, I think it's quite a lot of similarities.
Like I say, if you're playing a character of yourself, an exaggeration of yourself, perhaps, I feel like maybe that's like a sort of a form of protection, that it's not you saying those things, it's them saying those things. But like you say, if you're more subdued, is it kind of in that sense liberating that you can pretty much say whatever you want?
Exactly that. Like, it's the thing of like, the way my mind works, and I feel a lot of comics have said this, is, you're in very serious situations in life, and your brain just has that intrusive thought that is hilarious. But it's like, I can't say that now because this person's crying or they're going through something. But if I can just structure that well enough as a joke, I will be able to say that on stage.
Yeah.
And if I allow enough time to pass between this moment where it comes to my head and when the person who's with me sees this on stage, they'll also find it funny as well. But if I say this right now, it's like I can't. So yeah, like my wife, she's and that's when it makes you laugh. She doesn't like comedy. She's always said this. She doesn't like comedy. But I've managed to show her you do. It's just you don't like silly comedy. You actually have a very dark sense of humor that's really locked into reality and the horrible things of reality.
Yeah.
And so at moments where I'm holding myself back and censoring myself, she'll say something, and it will always be like she plucked a thought out of my head that's even from a darker place than would have gone. Like, I think we was talking about that Mother's Day's just passed, and once her mum passed away a few years back, and we kind of made a joke because I spent it all Mother's Day with my wife and stuff. She's a mum and she's lost her mum, so she needs my. So, but I didn't see my mum, and we were just talking about it in the kitchen, and then she goes, "Yeah, it's just hard when my mum's, dead. I don't really want to see anyone else's mum." And then in my head, I was like, But my mum's actually alive, so I do kind of want to see her. so, it's, so it's that kind of thing, and we're able to have that kind of joke in those kind of dark
Yeah.
moments. But that's with her. Whereas that kind of thought would come into my head while talking to someone who's talking about their dead mum.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, yeah, but my mum's not dead, so this is not really depressing to talk about.
Yeah.
But you have to leave that on stage. You have to leave that for on stage. So yeah.
Yeah. I used to make a joke that I think I'm safe saying this one to you, although I did sort of stop saying it because people didn't like it. I used to make a joke and say, "Well, I've moved back into my parents' house because they died, so it's mine now." So I thought it was funny, but
I like that.
Not everyone likes it.
Really weird. Yeah, it's a weird one, right? Like, there's some topics that you touch, and it talks like people. I think sometimes people do make it about themselves, and they go, "Well, my parents are dead, and I don't find that funny." And there's other people almost like, it's like, why is he not sad about that? Like in this moment, like I'm not going to laugh because I feel like he shouldn't be laughing at this.
Yeah,
and it's like no, I've dealt with the trauma, the issue with it enough to come on stage. We've all seen it where someone hasn't dealt with it and they talk about something too soon, and it's just like, well, this isn't funny.
Yeah,
this is very dark. But yeah, I just feel like if the comedian's happy to laugh at it, then I'm gonna laugh at it as well. So like, yeah, fine. If you're, especially if it's an autobiographical joke like that, I just think that's hilarious.
Well, talking about reality on stage, then. So your Fringe debut, 2023, Inconceivable.
Yeah,
people can be watching that on YouTube. So why don't you give me the elevator pitch? What's the show?
The elevator. Yeah, I got very good at the elevator pitch. Inconceivable is a show about mine and my wife's journey through IVF and infertility to becoming a parent of two children. Yeah. And that's the elevator pitch, and I always have to add at the end that it's a comedy show. It's not a TED talk about my defective testicles. It's a good show. That show, but yeah, very introspective, very fun. But it's odd because obviously Andrew Schultz has got his show out now, called Life, which covers all the same topics. Which I started writing my show when my daughter was born, 2021, and I first started telling jokes about that 3 weeks before she was born. It was like the last gig I did. So I've gone through all the IVF process and stuff, and then fortunately I was doing a show, and I was very close to the promoter, and he said, "Oh, I've had someone drop out today. So where you're meant to only do 10, 15 minutes, you can do as long as you want." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And I thought, well, I've been going through this like massive thing in my life that I just haven't been able to talk about. And I've got a few kind of jokes, and it's not really structured, but I think it's enough of a story to be interesting. And I just spoke about it for half an hour, just almost like a work in progress of just beginning to end, just chatting away. And I remember coming off stage, and Vittorio Angeloni was there, and Jay Handley were both on the bill. And I remember just Jay coming up to me after and going, "Oh, so someone's got an Edinburgh show." And I was like, "Oh, well, we'll see." And I wasn't signed with anyone at that stage, so I was like, "Oh, I just don't want to go to Edinburgh on my own. I want an agent to kind of guide me through what I need to do." And I just started telling jokes about that process on stage. So from that point on, like, once we've been through it and knew, okay, she's coming, she's right, she's good. I can start telling this story. And and I just start telling a story more and more. And then so okay, I think I've got enough of the story that we can make this a show. It's the only thing I'm talking about, so let's make it a show. And then 2023 debuted in Edinburgh with it, and then 2024 recorded it and put it on YouTube. And it's just, as I say, it's funny to watching Andrew Schultz do interviews about it. All the reaction he's getting is like I relate to it completely. He's like a magnified version, because he's been doing it for almost 20 years. It's just obviously a much bigger name. But it's I'm watching it and go, yeah, it's a good topic, and people resonate with it massively. It seems, even if it's not directly with infertility, they know someone, or even if they don't, it's like they hear this. If you tell the story well enough, I think with any story, you don't have to have gone through it.
Yes. Yeah.
To understand, what the person's going through. I mean, I guess we've all watched films with a strong female lead. I'm not a strong female, but but I come away from the film thinking, okay, I've learned something about that character.
Yeah.
I've learned something about all people like that. So that's shown, and it's good. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to do, and now it's just a challenge of writing something new. And I remember my agent sitting down with me going, no, what's the next show going to be? It's going to be something, another narrative-heavy show that's personal, or is it going to be just more of, a stand-up hour, just, an assortment of just funny jokes? And I tried to write the second one, but I just feel more naturally inclined to, if I'm going to do an hour show, to write something that is, personal. And I haven't found a topic yet until literally the last few days, where I was like, okay, I think there's some. What I'd like to have something personal and then straddle it with what's happening in the world.
Sure.
And kind of bring those together. And I think I don't really hide ideas. It's an idea, so yes. So I think what I might end up doing is talking about being a parent, and you've got this whole kind of masculinity, toxic masculinity, feminism, this kind of the interaction between boys and girls, men and women, dating. It's almost like a natural lead from the previous show, because fertility rates are dropping, people aren't dating each other anymore, all these kind of things, and people aren't having children anymore. And I think we've become quite polarized as men and women, just kind of being pulled apart.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, if I can write a show that makes, obviously if you're fully, incel Andrew Tate loving, then I can't pull you into the middle. And if you're like a raging feminist, I can't pull you into the middle either. But maybe those people that are just leaning towards one side, if I can do a show that makes, these men have their feelings feel validated and heard, and make these women have their feelings validated and feel heard, and try to bring them to the middle and go, actually, we do all need each other. That's a challenge I'm setting myself, to try and write a show that can do that. So that's the idea that's come to my head, and I said maybe last week. It came to my head. So so that's a challenge.
Yeah. So how was your festival experience as a whole? As a debuter, being thrown into the mix with 3,000 other acts, how was that experience?
Yeah, I went up there, and my agents were very smart, because I signed them in beginning of 2022, and they said, we could get you up there this year because we've got enough time. Things aren't closed, there's still venues, we can get you up there in 2022.
Yeah.
But they said it's a weird year. 2022 is people who should have debuted in 2020, 2021, and people debuting now who've had like a full run at it.
Yeah.
So they said it's a lot of competition. It's going to be messy. And you've never been to Edinburgh before. It's like, no, like not as a punter, not as a split bill, not of work progress. Go up there as a punter, just go to as many shows, go to different venues, to see what you like, pick up the vibes. So I did that in 2022. I just going around to different things and going to like the social element as well, but just trying to watch different shows, different times of day, seeing different types of crowds that come in and stuff. And and I remember coming away from that going, well, I don't really want the evening show. I think that's too rowdy. I need a crowd who are going to sit there and listen. I think. And so yes, because of that, I think I went up there in 2023 with you can't have your eyes completely wide open to the experience you haven't had, but I wasn't completely blind to it.
Yeah.
And just speaking to people, I set myself up in a way so I knew I had to live on my own. I couldn't live with anyone else. For the sheer fact that just I just saw just a difference in people's moods. And I thought, if my run doesn't go well, and I'm sharing like a flat with someone who's like shortlisted and having a great run, it's just gonna it's gonna kill me. So I've put on extra shows. And I'm just like, yeah, I've sold 2 tickets. I didn't want that, and vice versa. I didn't want to be on an amazing run and then have to kind of temper it down when I'm at home because I'm living with someone who's really struggling. So I was like, right, just be in my own space. I knew that I just wanted to be walking distance from where I was performing, and I thought if I get the time and the size of the room right, and I got the room that I wanted, so I had all the things that I could control how I wanted.
Yeah.
Things like ticket sales and things that I can't control sales, but as long as I've controlled all the things that I can control, that's fine. So once I did that, I tried to just let go, but I couldn't help but flyer myself. I ended up flyering.
Yeah.
And completely adds part of experience. Emmanuel Sanubi is saying, yeah, if you go out to fly, it's almost like emceeing your own gig.
Yeah.
So go and fly, it's like it'll get you warmed up for the show and stuff. It's like, right, I'll do that. But yeah, so I tried my hardest to keep my head on, but the problem with being at the Pleasance is as soon as you walk to the courtyard, you've got that big chalkboard that says every show that's sold out.
Yeah.
And it's the amount of discipline it takes, and it's a level of discipline that I did not have to walk past that board and not study it, look at it, and go, my name's not there. And those names are always there. And, and why is their show better than mine? Why do people like their show? And you start doing these things like, no, Darren, don't. Just you've got 4 hours until your show starts. This is midday.
Yeah.
Just chill out. You'll be fine. And most of the time, I think 20 odd shows we did, say probably 15 to 18 of them sold out.
Yeah.
But I think only once or maybe twice in the whole run they sold out, like by midday. The one day they sold out, I woke up in the morning and they were sold out. And I was like, okay, that's the first time it's happened in the run. But every other one, I felt like I have to work, I have to get to the courtyard, I have to fly, I have to talk to people, I have to do this, do that.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I'd be checking in the box office, my room held 60. I'd be checking the box office, like, how many I've sold? They're like, all right, you're on like 37. And be like 20 minutes left. I'm like, get a few more people, get a few more people. And I'll be running around. And I was like, you know what, I've got to get ready for the show. And they'll go to the front door and like the team there, and I go, oh, you're right. And they go, hey, well done. I was like, well done what? You sold out. I was like, what do you mean I've sold out? And in my head, I'm like, I spent so much stress and effort. So then towards the final week or so, I think I stopped flying at about 4 o'clock. I think 4 o'clock, I was went, right, stop flying, go get a beer, go get a coffee, and just get into the room and just sit and chill out and just appreciate the people who are there at the show.
Yeah.
And perform for them. Don't worry about flogging the extra ticket. And and I just did that. And I remember the first few shows, they went fine. I think one, maybe like the third or fourth show, I felt like it didn't go that well, and I kind of hung backstage for as long as I could, and then I walked out, and then there was someone like sat in the kind of like the beer areas. So as soon as I come out, they come like just like sprung up and ran over to me and go, "Oh, we thought we'd missed you, thought you'd gone." And it's like, "Oh, what?" Because we've just been waiting for you to come out. So, "Oh, what's up?" And they go, "Oh, we just thought the show was like excellent. It like really touched me. It reminded me and my husband's experience and and like we spoke for like 10 minutes." And I was just like, "Oh, I didn't think the show went well, but that made me feel so much better about the show." So I thought, right, do you know what? From this point on in the run, after my show, I'm going to make sure I manage to just run round the front, just get there and just say thank you to everyone who came to the show.
Yeah.
And I did that for the rest of the run, and it was like the best decision I made, because I do that. And yeah, great, not everyone's going to love the show, so you do get the kind of polite nod as they try to like just scurry past you, and then you get out those people who do that thing where they just kind of weirdly stand next to you patiently, and then you turn and go, "You're right," and they go, "I just want to say," and then they just like pour out what they were feeling about the show and stuff. And And there's some people, I remember one woman just said, "Can I hug you?" And she just gave me a hug. And yeah, and then what I was noticing was like the variance, the variety of people that were affected by the show or enjoyed the show. Like in my head, when I wrote it, I thought women will like the show. Women in their 30s and 40s, they'll like the show. I guess guys who've gone through it, they'll like it. But like everyone else, who, they'll take it or leave it. But yeah, I've seen like there was a group of lads in there, like early 20s, uni students, who were just like, no, that was like really funny, and like learned loads about that. And then he comes joking, goes, "I'm going to check my sperm out now." And they're really joking about it. And I mean, there's a stag do that came, and that was my worst show by far. But then there's about 7 or 8 of them who hung back and just said, like, "Mate, that was like really good." And one guy he showed me like the sonogram of his kid who's on the way. And stuff, and he's just like, "Yeah, we had a real struggle and stuff." I ain't really spoke about it with the boys and that, but yeah, he goes, "That was spot on." I was like, "Oh, fair enough." But I remember the best one I had, best like audience reaction I had was it's strange. It's like we all have stereotypes in our heads, and I think like in my head, like middle class British like white men, I tend to think of as quintessential, like that stiff upper lip, you don't show any emotion, and you just kind of like nod in approval. Thing I'd done. And I remember this guy coming out with his wife, and he came over to me, and he just kind of just put his hand out in front of me, like just to shake my hand. And then he kind of clasped it with the other hand, and he was like, he was on the verge. He's just like, he just nodded his head at me, going, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, cheers, man." And he goes, "Yeah." And then his wife just came running over, and she just hugged me. He goes, "No, it was beautiful." She goes, that was our story. Your story's almost like exactly like ours. She goes, "I don't know why I'm crying. My son's 19 now." And then she's just like, she's like, "It's just, we just forgot about it all. You just kind of just bury it." But you just reminded us just like what struggle it was and how tough it was. And I just remember all through that, her doing this outpour, this man was still holding my hands. he was still just kind of shaking my hands. And I was just like, "Oh, okay, this show's like, I can't just leave this show here in Edinburgh. I do need to just record it and make sure other people see it." And I always just came away from my shows just feeling good. So once I finished my show, I just felt good, and I was just relaxed for the rest of the day. And I didn't drink until the final week of the Fringe, and felt like I earned a drink by then. Naturally, what you do is everyone says they don't care about the awards, and maybe some people don't, but when you see your name's not on the short list, you go, "I can just let it loose now." It's like if my name was on the shortlist, I think I would have definitely locked in this kind of like sport competitive mode. But I'm not drinking. I want every show to be the best show it can be. And but I've just relaxed a bit more, and I was like, "Fine, we're last 6 shows now. Let's have fun." And it was good. It was good. I really enjoyed myself up there. The biggest struggle was leaving the family at home, because at the time my daughter would have been 2, my son was 5 months old and stuff, and it was too expensive for them to come up, and my wife didn't want to come up either. She didn't want to be stuck in Edinburgh for 3 to 4 weeks with two little kids. So that was tough. That was tough. But overall, I enjoyed the experience though. I think maybe that's one of those rites of passages that makes you feel like a real comedian in the UK if you've done a full Fringe run.
It's interesting you mentioned there now about awards, because obviously that same show then went to Leicester in February of 24, where you were nominated for Best Show, which is the hardest thing in the world to get nomination at Leicester. I mean, how do you feel about awards and like feedback, criticism, competition?
It's funny, right? Because a lot of people, like a lot of like comedians, will say, I think it depends what background you come from. So if you come from a truly artistic background, like acting, I think you're probably more inclined to not care about that stuff, maybe, or say you don't care at least. Whether you care or not, you'll say you don't care.
Mm.
Whereas if you've has transitioned from the normal world like I have, and you've grown up playing sport, and even though it doesn't go both ways. So if you don't get nominated for an award, it doesn't mean that your show's rubbish. But if you do get nominated for an award, it does kind of indicate your show's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think. So it's like there's only 5 nominations they can give, so they can't give it to. If there's 6 really great shows, then they can only give it to the 5. So you may have been that 6th, but if you are in that 5,
yeah,
almost feel like it's a bit false. Like they're just trying to be magnanimous, be like, oh, it doesn't really matter that I got nominated. It's like, but you did get nominated, so your show's good. You should pat yourself on the back. And so my view of show with that was it. At the end of the day, it's people's opinions. Whoever's on the panel is their opinion. But yeah, I've always like respected people who get nominated for something. I was never. It took me a while to not get too down and not be nominated for things or not progressing in competitions. But if you do, I think why would you not?
Yeah.
Why would you not be happy and celebrate that? So yeah, so the Leicester one, it was that was interesting because I think I had 2 shows that day. I had a work in progress show that had about 20 people in, and then I had the actual like Inconceivable. I think I had 7, and I know that I now know respect. One of them was like one of the panel. So one guy was the guy I spoke to in Edinburgh. He's like a comedian, like up and coming comic, and he brought his mate along. 2 were a couple, and then as you said, it must have been 8, and then 3 were 3 guys that I in my day job they work for. So working at property, they work for a contractor based in Leicester, and they just came along to the thing. So those 3 of them came along. So so I was like, right, there's 8 people in the room. I think if I hadn't done Edinburgh, where the show comes out bulletproof, and that you might have 8 people, you might have 80, you just perform the same show. I don't think I would have performed well there, but I was just like, these 8 people have come along. I think it was like 7:30 on a Sunday. I was like, hey, Darren, give them the best show you can give them. The laugh's not going to sound loud because there are simply 8 people in the room, but just deliver the show. And I was just like, right, I'll deliver the show. And then found out a few days after that, my agent said, Darren's been shortlisted for best show. And I was like, oh, good job I put some effort into that show, into that performance. So so it's good. But yeah, I like competitions like those things. It's good.
Yeah. How about watching comedy? Is it still something that you do? Do you watch it in the same way?
Yeah, it's a strange one. It's like all the guys, so all like the big American acts that before I started comedy or at the beginning, who's my top 3 and stuff, and it'd be like Chappelle, Rock, Bill Burr. I always watch them because those are the guys who I was like, you'll do that at the highest level. But I almost feel like how do I say it? I'll sometimes be critiquing their jokes. There'd be one part of me going, like he's better than that. He needs to move off that topic. He's covered that topic too many times in too many specials. And there's another part of me going like, who the hell are you to say how Dave Chappelle should structure his joke? Like, what are you talking about? Just shut up. Just watch him do his thing. So no, I still enjoy watching live comedy. I really enjoy it. More so, I enjoy watching comics who I've just never seen before. Like just people who are just my level, or a few levels above, a few levels below, however you want to see it in kind of hierarchy. But so like the Pleasance Reserve, I went to that for both years. I was like, I knew some of the guys that I was actually friends with some, but other people I didn't know, like Jinhao Lee.
Yeah.
When I first saw him, I was so tired before I even got to the reserves. I was like, I've got to go watch it. Like I want to support Kyra. Will Robbins. So I was like, I want to see them. I think it's Amy Wambao and then Jin Hao, and I was like, Jin Hao's the only one I have no idea about. But it's Kyron and Will I knew as comics and off stage. So I didn't know him at all. And then when I saw him, and I was just in bits, like absolute bits. And I was like, this guy is, who is this guy? Like, he's unreal. Like, he's so funny. So seeing people like that. I love seeing if I'm on a bill with a comic who is like a TV comic who I knew before I started doing comedy, but I'm actually gigging with them. So I've got to see what this guy's like live, and sometimes it is disappointing. Sometimes it is a thing of, you almost feel like they're a bit jaded and they're like, their career isn't where they want it to be. They're like, well, in their mind, they're like, why am I doing a gig with this guy? Where there's other comics who I've just gigged with a few months, maybe last month, Marcus Brigstocke, I gigged with, and it was just like he came backstage, like he was there from like the beginning of the show, really personable, just chatting away. We spoke about just normal things in life, and then he went on stage, and I was emceeing. He went on stage, and he just absolutely tore the house down. And I was just like, yeah, I want to see that. You're so many years in. I want to see you do something that makes you go, yeah, that's really good. And he was brilliant. And to answer your question, I still like watching comedy. I like something being recommended for me if someone I haven't seen before, or someone who does something that I just don't do or can't do at all. I like watching that as well.
Yeah. So what then so far do you think have been, if you haven't heard one of them already, or both, the best and worst experiences you've had as a comedian?
Best experience was probably doing my special last year at Peasants Theatre. Just like it was, because I've recorded an hour show before, but that was like, I was recording an hour show, but I hadn't. It was 3 shows, like 3 nights in a row, and I knew that there wasn't like a fully formed show. But it was like good. Whereas with Inconceivable, I've done the whole Edinburgh run. I just got nominated for like best show at Leicester's. Like, I know this show's really good. I just need people to sit down. I just need to get people in the room. That's it. It's like, so I could really focus on ticket sales and just being a salesman of selling tickets, because I knew that the show's just there. It's just it's packaged, it's ready to go. Whereas that previous one, I'm trying to get people there while also working on the show.
Right.
So, going through that whole thing with my agent, getting the guys to record it and stuff, getting those guys in, and finding the venue and getting there early and be like, wow, like there's going to be almost 200 people here, all to just watch my show. Like, this is pretty cool. And then also that was my wife's first time seeing the show as well. She hadn't seen the show before, and obviously if you've seen the show, she features very heavily in the show. so it was her first time watching it. So that was the only element of the crowd that made me feel nervous. Like, I thought everyone's going to enjoy this, but if there's one person who's not going to enjoy it, it's my wife. But I think she will enjoy it, and so that's definitely the highlight of Tom's career so far. And then the worst moment, it's funny, like in hindsight, it's not that bad, but in the moment, I haven't felt that bad as I did feel in that moment. It was a comedy competition. It was the Comedy X Factor at the Camden Centre, so that's like 400 people. And how they structure the shows, I think they do it in X Factor now, or one of those shows where, so there's 8 acts going on, and there's 4 chairs on stage. So naturally, the first 4 acts get a chair, and I was on I think it's like the 3rd act, so I've got a chair. And then I think like the 5th act came on, and he destroyed, but then he also made a joke about me as well. Made a joke about something in my set, So the crowd are just in absolute bits. And then the MC is like, right, it's time to vote who we're getting rid of. And the crowd are already laughing. It's like, I know it's me. I know it's me, but if this was, if I didn't want to look like a bad sport, and I was like, I just want to walk off. I know it's me. I don't have to go through this humiliation. And they saved me. They go, oh, is it going to go to this person? They're like, no. And it's like, this person? Like, no. Put your hand over my head. What about this guy? Yeah, get rid of them. He's rubbish. And just like abuse. I was like, there's no need for this. Like, guys, I was there as well. I know it didn't go great. And then, like, they went to the next guy. I was like, there's no need to go to the next guy. The next guy's like, no, back to the other one. Back to him. And then he put it back over my head. I was like, all right, you've got to go. I was like, yeah, no, got to go. And then, and I was literally trying to be, sporting, shaking their hands, go, like, good luck. And like the MC's like, mate, just get off the stage. Just get off. That's just like, oh my God. So I was like, there's just no need for this. Yeah, I remember it's been sat backstage like, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. I think comedy's rubbish. That was like, this is really bad. But then, that was, but that was only 6 months into doing comedy. I did that. I put myself through that experience.
Yeah.
And then the next year I went back to a competition and I won the competition. So that was like a redemption. But yeah, that was a horrible moment. That was very horrible.
Darran, how can we find out about you and where we can see you performing?
Sure. Find out about me at darrangriffiths.com. So it's just my name, DARRANGRIFFITHS.com. So it has shows on there, update upcoming gigs. It has Inconceivable, the show you've spoken about on here. It has the show I did in 2019 at Camden Fringe called That Is Why. And and anything, my podcast is there as well. So I had the podcast with 2 friends, Mark Akadiri and Kazim Jamal, which we've stopped now. No drama. So it's just no drama. So we're all mates, and WhatsApp is still there. It's still active. But it's just commitments, like life commitments. I mean, then we just couldn't continue doing the pods. But I still have my podcast, Griff's Brain Dump, which I literally forget I do, even though I do it every week. I never plug it. It's just there. It's just there for people to find if they find it. And that's I've done that since 2017. So I think I'm almost at 400 episodes of this podcast that I do not promote. People stumble across it and I forget I'm talking to the internet, so I'll just be chatting away about my life, and then someone will come up to me after a gig and just be like, oh, so like, how's Naomi? I'm like, how do you know my wife's name? They're like, you said it on the pod, and I was like, you listen to my pod? They're like, well, you post it? I'm like, yeah, I do. I guess I do post it. You can find out too much information about me on there. But yeah, and you can find me on social media, Darran at Darran Griff on X, on Insta, TikTok. I don't do anything on there, like it's just there, and Facebook as well. Yeah, on all those places.
And so we come to my final question, which is simply, how would you sum up comedy in a nutshell?
Comedy in a nutshell. Good comedy. Well, it's just two ways of 2 things have jumped to my head when you've asked that question. So these aren't my words. It's Jay Sodiger again from The Cause. He said, a good joke is when your subconscious meets the audience subconscious, and you almost insert a thought into their head that they didn't know they already held. And I was just like, yeah, that is. Like, all my favorite jokes is this person is just articulating something I've never really thought about, but I feel that. Yes, that is exactly that. And then the second one, and the live example I saw, and I'll try to say it quickly, was when I was doing a gig in Tottenham. Was a black gig, and middle-aged crowds, so not the young, rowdy black crowds, but middle-aged Caribbean people in Tottenham. It was, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it was. But I did well. I guess it's, I should naturally do well with the type of jokes I was telling. But I remember this Norwegian comic came on. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he was odd, so odd, and the crowd was just like, "What is this?" But he just stuck with it. He just stayed committed to whatever material he's going to tell. He never said, "Oh, it's not going well." He just kept it. And we're about 8 minutes in, they cracked. He got one little laugh, and then the next joke got another laugh, and then they just started going with it. And the same thing I saw Spencer Jones as well. I realised that comedy is not entering the audience's world. It's opening up your world and bringing them in. And if you believe in what you're saying and it's authentic and also it's funny, people will just come in. It doesn't matter how weird, how quirky it is. If you just deliver it with enough conviction, people are like, okay, this is what we're doing for the next 20 minutes. Fine, I'm here now. This is and so that's my thing. Is don't enter the audience's world. Bring them into yours.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Darran, you've been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.